Hey, what's up guys? It's Andrew here again, coming at you with another video, and as you can see from the titles, this week it's going to be top 10 guilty pleasures. These are so far, of course. I could have more guilty pleasures. To a little bit more of like a context of what guilty pleasures is it's a film that is considered bad, whether it be not scary, whether it be whether it just be something like that, just not a good film in general, but I find myself liking the film regardless. For like a spoiler, I did not put any of the Scream sequels 2 or 3 on here, My Soul to Take, or like Exorcist 2. I generally think that those films are actually pretty decent of films. They're just not liked because they're just either not as good as the original, or like Exorcist 2, where it's like so different than the original, or like My Soul to Take, they don't like the story. But generally I think that they're pretty well made films. So those are a couple that like I didn't put on. Also, I didn't put on any 80s slashers because I think that overall pretty much any 80s slasher film could be a guilty pleasure because they're not very well made, bad dialogue, but you still have fun with it regardless. So if you want to see some of those guilty pleasures of mine, watch my first video I ever made, my 80s slashers. You'll see some of those on there. So there aren't going to be really any 80s slashers on this list. So without further ado, I'll get right into it. My number 10 is probably one that, it was pretty overwhelmingly hated when it came out into theaters, and rightfully so for reasons. But number 10 is The Apparition. It's only 82 minutes, and it's a really weird ghost story. I don't know. It's really interesting because like they don't have like the pacing is really off in the movie, and it's not very scary, that's for sure. And they wanted it to be scary. You can tell they tried. There's some atmosphere in here and there, but like overall they didn't really do that good of a job in making it scary. The reason why I like this is that the story is overall like something I can kind of like just watch and kind of enjoy. It takes place in this really, it almost looks like a Poltergeist type suburb, but it's like really like, it feels like really isolated suburb sort of. And it's really, and I also like the characters in this film. Like I have a fun time with it. Like I can just watch it and just kind of just sit there and watch it and enjoy it. So, that's number 10. Also, I tried to kind of rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. Although like these are 10 of my guilty pleasure films, but I tried to be in order. Number 9 is going to be the remake of The Stepfather. Now, as a more mature film, and a better overall story, the original is probably the superior film. But in terms of like which one I can kind of watch and sit back and enjoy like more, this is more like a teen thriller also. I kind of sit back and kind of enjoy this film just a little bit more. It's just a fun teen thriller. The characters, like the son and the girlfriend. The girlfriend's played by Amber Heard, and Penn. I don't know how to say his Penn Badgley, I think is how you say his name. He's one of the guys on I think it was 90210. I want to say was his show. It's just, I really think it's a really fun film. I can just sit back and watch it, enjoy the characters. Same with this. Number 8 is going to be Prom Night. It's not really a remake. It's just kind of like a movie with the same name as the original Prom Night. It's a completely different story, completely different characters, nothing alike, other than they take place on prom night. I thoroughly enjoy these characters. It is not scary whatsoever. The directing is bad. It has some cliched. It has some of my favorite cliches in it. I think 2 or 3 times it has the mirror closing and there's a jump scare, a false scare. Like I thoroughly enjoy that false scare. It's cliched, but I like that cliche. There's also a couple other cliched ones, and it's just, to me, I just have such a fun time, and it's getting to be prom season, so I actually will probably get to be watching that soon. NumberSeven is a movie from the early 2000s that I absolutely love. 13 Ghosts. This has the snap case, which I really don't like, but I don't really care. This is such a fun film. I mean, it's special effects galore. I mean, it's fast-paced. It's kind of creepy, but not really that scary. I just have such a fun time watching this movie. Shannon Elizabeth's in it, and Matthew Lillard is in it, who's one of my favorite actors. He's very underrated, I think, as an actor. Such a fun time with this. And Tony Shalhoub is in it. He was from Monk, the movie Monk, the show Monk. Yeah, I recommend watching this. It's a really fun time. You won't be scared, but you'll have a blast watching it, I feel. That was NumberSeven, yeah. NumberSix is Amityville 3D. This movie is just bad all around. The acting is actually pretty well done, and the direction is decent. But overall, like, the effects are so cheesy looking, and like the 3D just looks laughable. And it just comes off as so corny. And some of the scary scenes, scary or not scary whatsoever, they're just funny. I just have such a fun time watching this film, though. Like, the characters, like, it's just funny to laugh at this film. Although I do think that this is a pretty decent, I do think this is a pretty decent entry into the Amityville. This is the first one that was, like, purely fiction. And, you know, I can watch this every now and then and just have a good time with it. That was NumberSix. NumberFive is a movie that I find myself going to quite a bit, and I don't know why, but it's House at the End of the Street. Jennifer Lawrence, this is the only film that she's been in that's a horror film, I believe, unless you want to count Winter's Bone. And then Max Terriot, who's also in My Soul to Take, and Elizabeth Shue. I find this to be an enjoyable film for the characters. I enjoy just watching Jennifer Lawrence kind of have this, her whole attitude that she has in almost all of her films, this like feisty, like sassy type character. I just have such a fun time with it. And I think Max Terriot does a really fine job in this. He's very, like, I don't know what to think of him the whole movie. He's just a very, very good individual, like, actor. And I have such a fun time with it. It's not scary whatsoever, and it's not a very well... Like, some of the cinematography I think is pretty slick, but other than that, like, it's not, like, extremely well shot. It's got a lot of false scares, no atmosphere whatsoever, but it's still, like... I still find myself enjoying it for just unknown reasons. NumberFour is Wes Craven's Cursed. This was actually supposed to be, like I said in my Wes Craven review, a really good film, and then it just ends up being this, which is a really campy, fun werewolf movie. It's really smart, and at the same time, it's really dumb. Like, it is really fun. If you want to watch a movie that you're just going to have a blast with, that's a Wes Craven film, this and, like, Hills Have Eyes Part 2, you can't go wrong with this one, though. Jesse Eisenberg is hilarious in this movie. The Yay Go Gay is, like, that whole scene is hilarious. And like, the whole, wrestling scene also is good as well. Yeah, it's not very scary. It has some tense parts, but overall, it's a really fun film. Gotta love the characters, and Christina Ricci is in it too. So, let's see, NumberThree. my brother's gonna know this one's coming up and is on here. My NumberThree is Devil's Due. I've seen this movie 3 times now. And I gotta say, it's not scary, it's not very scary, but overall I find myself having an enjoyable time with the characters, overall with this, it's a found footage film, and honestly the whole demon baby thing, you can only do so much with that premise, and especially within a found footage film, I feel like they got all that it's worth out of the film. And it's a really fun flick. I mean, I had a good time enjoying watching it. Again, it's one of those ones where I don't know why, I just love the characters. Yeah, that's Devil's Due. Number 2, I find myself watching a lot, and especially because it's Chicago, and it's April, and it snowed last night. What the hell? It snowed last night, but I watched this a little bit last night because it snowed. Number 2, Shredder. This movie is so bad. It's really terrible. Like it's really terribly shot. It's really, the acting is atrocious in it. Especially the car scene where the girl spills her coffee and is like, oh, like it's really, really horrible. But it is so fun at the same time. Like, it works so well. Like, it honestly functions a little bit as an 80s slasher flick, like I said this before, but it is so fun. The characters are so, they're not as cookie cutter, but they are sort of cookie cutter at the same time, but they are so fun to be, like, for 86 minutes is what this film is, including credits. It is such a fun time. Like, there's some parts where I'm like, it's kind of cheesy, especially the ending. Oh, that is awful. But it's a fun time nonetheless. And my number 1 is possibly one of the most hated horror films that come out in the mid-2000s, or maybe it was the late 2000s. But, man, was it such a fun time. And that is The Happening. M. Night Shyamalan's one of his most hated films. Even I could admit some of the shots and some of the dialogue is really corny and cheesy, and it's supposed to be a B movie, so rightfully so. But my God, do I have such a fun time with this film. This, yeah, it gets shit on by a lot of people, but it's really, really fun. I mean, it's basically like the plants, the wind, the plants are setting off this whole thing where people kill themselves. And it's a really interesting and unique premise. And his whole, like, commentary on the film, like, is really interesting. And I really thought that it had fun characters, and it's just really fun to watch. Like, he tried to be scary with some of it, and some of it doesn't work, but this is such a good time for me. I find myself going to this quite a bit, and it's just really a fun time. So yeah, that is my top 10 guilty pleasures. I have more. I could have put Boogeyman in there. I could have put maybe Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Those kind of fit on some of the other lists as well. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed these 10 the most. So that completes that list. I do have a list for next week. Mine is going to be top 10 unfairly hated list. I differentiate between unfairly hated and underrated, and I'll explain more about that next week. But my top 10 is going to be unfairly hated movies. That's going to be next week. So, yeah, without further ado, this is my top 10. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this list. Thanks for tuning in as always. Please subscribe, and I always enjoy your guys' feedback. So, yeah, that's all for this week. Thanks, guys, and have a good week.